The Push for More podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to the Push for More podcast, and we are broadcasting in Baltimore County at the Marconi Musical Products, established in 2007. And our special guest today is Tim Meeks. Tim, thank you so much for doing this for us.
My pleasure.
Very gracious of you, and we love to hear about you. So can you start with a little bit about yourself, your background, how you became to build this great company?
Sure. I came from a typical middle-class family, was able to go to college, went to college for engineering. And I noticed that when I was in college, there were two things that I found to be passions of mine that were a little bit distracting, from focusing on the engineering. One of the things was playing music. I played keyboards. And the second thing was my friend Jeff and I, we decided we were going to start a business doing office cleaning. We called it Tidy Brothers. It didn't really go anywhere, but what I really learned about myself during that time was I loved entrepreneurship and I loved music. And those were two things that I learned about myself. Later on, I was able, through my engineering degree, I was able to get a job at Polk Audio, which is a speaker company. And so that sort of had overlapping interests of mine. And I always said to myself, I would love to start a business of my own that somehow tied in my interests. And kind of waiting for an idea. I had all kinds of ideas throughout the years, but then I came across this one idea where I felt like, hey, this is really something. And that idea was the Harpejii, which is behind me here. You can see on the wall. So as I mentioned, I played keyboards and I wanted to learn guitar. And I tried learning guitar, and I got a guitar and a chord book, and I started practicing. And I started realizing that, hey, there's a lot of memorization that is required. You have to memorize all of the chord fingerings, and there's many pages in a thick chord book. And I thought, wow, wouldn't it be wonderful if all the chords were the same fingering? A C chord, same fingering as a D chord, same as an F, all that. And my brain just started going on different ways to accomplish that. So ultimately, what I ended up coming up with was a guitar for keyboard players. A guitar. It has real strings, real frets, real guitar sounds, but it's more accessible and more. It plays to the strengths of somebody that has 10-finger independence and is used to the piano.
That is amazing, and as you can see, we have different colors, different sizes. And that suits the musician, correct? They're made to order.
Made to order. Most of what we do is made to order. People pick out custom paint jobs and things like that, and different price points and different note ranges. If you play with a bass player, maybe you don't need all the bass strings, that kind of a thing.
How long did it take you to come up with the, I guess you would call engineering of the instrument itself?
Yeah. Well, I had a head start because there are other instruments. So the Harpejii is a tapping instrument, and that means that it's played by you tap on the string and it produces a note. You just need one finger to make one note. Unlike a guitar, where you kind of need to fret and then pluck type thing. So there were other tapping instruments like the Chapman stick and the Starboard, which gave me a head start. And then the things that I changed about those instruments were mostly design improvements, and I found that my design improvements were patentable, and so we did things that made it easier to play and a little bit made it behave better.
As far as taking this to another level, you said that your passion was entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. What fuels your passion? What gave you the inspiration to create this?
Well, I think something in me is wired to want to do things differently. I'm inspired by human beings that do things different from the masses, and they succeed at it, right? Because a lot of us try to do things the same way, right? And a lot of people aren't happy. And sometimes to be happy, you just have to do things differently than all the other people that are not happy. right? And so whether it's somebody in finance or health and fitness or whatever, there's all kinds of people out there that are just doing things differently, and it's working. And I like to pay attention to those people.
That's awesome, because that's what we're trying to do here at the Push for More, is be a little bit different than the other nonprofits out there. And we're just starting out, so hopefully that will come to fruition and we'll succeed like you have. As far as your employees and your family, how much do you have working for you as far as things like that?
Yeah, so it's mostly a family business. We have, 3 of my sons and 2 of my daughters and my wife are kind of operate the business. I also operate another business, which is called Wingard Aerospace, and I'm enjoying that very much as well. And we have one other employee named Sky who's not family, but he is family.
Excellent. We want to inspire our youth to just do what you just talked about, and that is become something special by being a little bit different. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of like the hallmark of where we are and what we're trying to do. Mm-hmm. So if you could give any advice to someone out there that is just starting out and building their own business, or maybe wants to make an instrument or wants to make a product or whatever, mm-hmm. From your experiences, what's the most important thing that you can think of that would help them?
For me, the most important thing that I would tell anybody is the 3 circles. Watch the 3 circles. You have to stay at the intersection of the 3 circles. And what the 3 circles are is, one is what the things that you are passionate about. We don't have a passion. We have passions. There are several things that many of us can be passionate about, right? The second circle would be the things that we're good at. The things that God has blessed us with talents or experience, or life has given us the experience or whatever. But we're good at it for whatever reason. We're good at these things. And then the third circle, which a lot of people forget about, is the circle of things that the world needs from you and is willing to pay for in some way. You have to be at the center of those 3 things. If you are at the center of those 3 things, then you're going to find success. It's not just about you and pleasing yourself and doing something that you like, in a dark room by yourself.
Yes.
You have to be a part of society, and you have to contribute, and you have to do something that benefits others besides yourself. So if you can find the intersection of those 3 things, and try not to focus on, the intersection of those 3 things, it might not be the thing that you're the most passionate about. You are passionate about it, but it might not be your favorite thing, right? And then it might not also be the thing that you're the best at, but it's something that you're very good at. And lastly, it might not be the thing that people will pay you the most for, but it's something that people will pay you enough for.
And that's a great example of what you need to get started. We're offering summer entrepreneurial workshops at the Push for More, and we're going to have the youth come up with a solution to a problem in the community. So those 3 circles could be the hallmark of what we're trying to, we could introduce that into our curriculum, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, well, that's really cool, because what the world wants you to do is solve problems. Like, we have problems, and if we're together solving problems, then you're already immediately in one of those circles.
Can you tell me what your anchors are, as far as what keeps you grounded, what keeps you fundamentally healthy, physically and emotionally?
Well, I'm a Christian, so spiritually, I stay grounded in Christ. My wife she's the glue that keeps this whole thing together. The example of my parents and my grandparents, very strong family, very strong morals, and I would say those things.
That's excellent. So let's talk a little bit about your other company, Wingard Aerospace. Can you tell me a little bit about that, and maybe some of the obstacles you've overcome trying to create that as well?
Sure. So Wingard Aerospace is not my creation. Wingard Aerospace has been around since the 1960s. And I've been with Wingard Aerospace for about 5 years. But it's a manufacturing business like Marcoti. And I love manufacturing and I love small business. Wingard is a little bit different in that Marcoti is more of a luxury product. It's a hobby product, whereas Wingard, we're making parts of airplanes and things like that.
Very cool.
And so totally different industry, but with really any small business and in both companies, the biggest challenges that you go through is sometimes you go through a sales cycle where you have a low. And remember that the world's not ending. The world's not on fire. Just sometimes this happens in a business, and you have to be ready for it. You have to be prepared. And the older I get, the more I'm cognizant of that, and that's how you get through that.
Can you tell me a little bit about the company and what they do?
Yeah, so primarily Wingard Aerospace stamps metal parts that are made for electric motors that go into either an airplane or a defensive missile or something like that. So we ultimately sold up to maybe a Boeing or Raytheon, these kind of companies. So we have these large presses that you have a coil of metal that goes through and it stamps out the part, and then we'll also assemble stacks of laminations that eventually become the core of a motor that goes into like an electric motor that would spin or something like that.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So, Tim, can you tell me about maybe an obstacle that you've overcome that has pushed you forward in life and in inspiration and in faith?
I think the biggest obstacle that I've ever encountered was the big housing crash of 2008. Unlike a lot of people, or maybe like a lot of people, I had bought a few houses, and I didn't understand that there were forces that were going on, behind the scenes that were corrupting the whole mortgage market. When all of a sudden, all of the housing values started crashing, I was particularly exposed because of all of that. And so we had to get rid of some properties, and that whole experience was really bad, really scary. But somebody said something to me. It was actually my boss at the time, and he said, it seems like the world's coming down, but a lot can change in 10 years. 10 years from now, you're not going to worry about it. So just keep the faith.
A lot of people say that you can relate the analogy to, if I want to quit drinking or quit doing drugs or quit whatever, gambling, you can quit today. You can do one day. Mm-hmm. You don't want to say, I'm going to quit for 10 years.
Yeah.
You want to quit for one day. You can do one day.
Right.
So if you can make it through one day and take one day at a time, you can make it through it. And 10 years down the road, it will change.
Yeah, but that really made an impact on me. Just him having said that, because when something really bad happens, you tell yourself that, that's it. I've ruined my life. I'm gonna forever. I'm gonna be behind, and that's that's it. Game over. But no, if you stick back to the basics, get back to discipline. One of the things that I also will say is that everybody wants to know what's the key to happiness. And well, some people never, reach, full happiness because of circumstances. But if there is such a thing as a key to happiness, I think the key to happiness is to try to be as healthy as you can be, given your circumstances. And when I say healthy, I mean physically healthy, spiritually healthy, mentally healthy, financially healthy, right? If you can try in all those aspects of your life, try to be as healthy as you can, given the cards that have been dealt to you. The way that you become as healthy as you can be is the thing that nobody wants to do, which is the discipline, right? Financial discipline, discipline in your diet, discipline in your relationships, all of these things. You got to be disciplined, and with discipline will come better health, and with better health, you'll be happier. And
that's going to be a good segue into what PUSH stands for. And that, again, is passion, understanding, sacrifice, and hope. Can you tell us what passion means to you?
Passion, it's emotion, the things that resonate with you, the things that kind of get you going. And like I said before, we all have many passions, and you have to discern the difference between the passions that might lead you to success and the passions that might lead you to destruction. Not all passions are
good.
No doubt.
How about understanding? What does that mean to you?
I think first and foremost, you have to understand yourself. Before you can understand other people, you have to be able to understand yourself. You have to also be willing to give yourself a break. I think most people are too hard on themselves. You take on a lot of things in your life, and like I used to fall into that trap where I'd have a weekend. I'd say I want to get this, and this done this weekend, and then Sunday night comes, and I didn't get those things done, and I feel depressed and you down and angry that I didn't get these things done. But you have to give yourself a break, and you have to say, well, wait a minute, you're trying. You only have so many resources. You only have so much time. You're doing the best you can. Hey, it's okay, right? So you have to understand yourself, give yourself a break.
And sacrifice. Can you tell us about sacrifice, what that means to you?
Yeah, it's when you give of your resources for a higher calling, right? For something that is greater than yourself. Not everybody has a lot of resources. Kids don't have typically a lot of resources, but just about everybody has time. And so you can choose what to do with your time. And I would encourage kids to really think about what they're doing with their free time. I want kids to be kids, and I want them to have fun, and I want them to enjoy life. But you also have to, as you get older as a kid, you have to start thinking about, is what I'm doing with my free time just fun and pleasure for myself, or is it cumulatively making the world better in some way? You know what I mean? So you can do things with your free time that will never make the world better. Scrolling on your phone, there's many things that cumulatively will not make the world better. But then there are things that can, and there's things that you can choose to invest in, whether it's in yourself and your future, or if you're building goods and services for the world or whatever. Each day we have to look at sacrificing our time for something better.
Yeah, and like you said, being healthy, by you being healthy makes the world more healthy.
Yeah.
Because you can't help anyone else without making yourself, your own priority.
Yeah, I heard something really interesting on a podcast this week, which was that statistically, if your friend, is obese, you are more likely to be obese. If your friend's friend that you don't even know is obese, you are more likely to suffer from obesity. Yeah, I would say working on yourself definitely has benefits, and just being a good example to the people around you.
Absolutely.
Is important. Yeah.
And the last thing we're going to talk about today is hope. Anything you want to say about hope? Go ahead.
To me, hope is trust the process. You make good use of your time. You have good habits, and you don't want to dwell on the negative. Don't assume that you're going to be unlucky. Trust the process, and trust that if you have good habits and do the right thing, that cumulatively over time, things are going to be better in the future. By staying positive, I think you increase the chances that things will be better.
Well said. Thank you very much for being on the Push for More podcast today. It was a pleasure to have you.
My pleasure.
Did a great job. And hopefully we can get together soon outside of the podcast area and have dinner or something like that. But,
sounds great.
But thank you to Harpejii for hosting us. And we will be back with our next episode in about 6 weeks. Thank you.
All the best, John.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for tuning in to the Push for More podcast. To join our mentor network or appear on the podcast, feel free to reach out to us at thepushformore.com.
And if you have the means, please consider making a tax-deductible contribution to help support our mission.
Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Every little bit helps us push forward.